Hey folks, Happy New Year. I'm going to do a short video today to tell you about dim bulb testers, why they're important, and just show you how it works. So this is the Ampeg V4 that I was talking about yesterday, and as you can see, it's still sitting there. At the end of the video, we'll power it up, and let you take a look at that. But I want to talk a little bit about dim bulb testers. So a dim bulb tester is basically used to limit the current that goes through a device under load, essentially. So what you do, you build this device, and I'll have a schematic here to show you in a second. And what it does is when you turn it on and you plug the device into it, the lamp will come on bright and then go dim if everything is good. But if the lamp comes on bright and stays bright, that means you have a short somewhere in the device. So that's why it's good to always bring up anything that you work on or anything that you purchase through one of these things first so that you can really avoid doing damage to the transformers. So this is what a typical dim bulb tester looks like. Very simple to make. You can get all the parts in Home Depot or Lowe's, and you put one together, and you'll see basically that everything comes off the power. The neutral and the ground goes through a switch, through the outlets, I'm sorry, and comes to a switch, and then the hot goes back. So that's essentially what it does. So let me show you mine, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, this is my dim bulb tester, and nothing exciting here. It's just a light bulb and an outlet. I have this plugged into the wall, and this is the plug coming from the amplifier. Okay, so so what we're going to do is we're going to turn this on, and you'll see nothing happens. And then we're going to turn the amp on, and you'll watch and see what happens to the bulb. I'm turning it on now. So the bulb comes up bright, and you'll see it gets dimmer. And basically what that means is that power or current is flowing through the bulb, as it should, and feeding to the amp, which is going to start heating up the tubes in about 2 seconds. And you'll know that things are working. If that bulb had stayed bright, you would be in big trouble. So now I'll take a look at the amp, and you'll see that the amp is on. Okay? So let's turn that off. Okay, so I have the amp now plugged directly into the wall, and we're going to fire it up, and we'll take a look underneath the tubes and see what's going on there. So let's power it up. There's our red light, and you'll start to see those tubes light up under there. There's your 727As, and if you look under there, you'll see the preamp tubes just starting to warm up. Takes a while. And you'll notice it's quiet. One thing, of course, is you never ever turn these things on without a speaker plugged in. That's the reason why I had to do this factory modification that I told you about yesterday, which is basically 4 diodes. And this was the engineering change that I had mentioned yesterday right there. Okay, so let's see. Quiet as can be. We're going to take it off standby. A little bit of a hum, which is normal. Of course, there's no instrument plugged into it at the moment. Let's see what the tubes are doing now. Yeah, they're nice and hot. Those heaters are right there. Looking good. So let's talk about something else here. Alright, so I just turned off the amp. Now, if you were listening yesterday, what did I say? Never touch anything inside. There's still loads and loads of current in those capacitors over here as well. So you don't go sticking your hand in there and doing anything. You've got to either discharge the capacitors, and there's ways to do that. I'm not going to advocate any because they can damage the capacitor, or you can simply wait and those resistors will eventually bleed out what's in there. Okay, we flipped the unit over. One more thing I want to show you before we wrap this up. Let me put some light on here. When you're dealing with tubes, okay? Tube sockets get loose, all right? You'll see that these are pretty loose in here. They rock way too easy. Okay? So there is a way to adjust some of that, but you got to be really careful. So if you take one of these tubes out, you'll see the tube socket, and there's a way to retighten those pins. And basically, what you do is you take a pick a very sharp pick. I'll get one here. Like so. Very fine tooth on the end, right? And you put it in the socket. And you just gently move the pins a little bit. Don't do it too hard. You close them up, you'll be in big trouble. You just gently move the pins. Okay? Gotta be really careful with this. As my friend John always says, no rush, take your time, no problems, right? And then when you do that, you put your tube back in, if I can get it in the right way, and it should be a little bit tighter. Now there's also a way to clean the inside of the contacts. Just rock the tube a little bit, okay? And you could also use something like Deoxit. That stuff works really good. And you should do that with all your tubes. Now the interesting thing about these Ampeg amps is these boards are really, really thin. So if you see that what I'm doing here, I'll see if I can get a better angle. That whole board is really thin and it moves. So with that, you have to be really careful because these tubes can obviously move pretty easily as well. So I wanted to make sure I showed you that. And I think that's all for today. Oh, one other thing. So looking at the transformers, this one appears to be in great shape. This one, I'm seeing some signs of rust here, right? So when you do a restore, you don't want to do half a restore, you want to do the whole thing. So I'm going to have to get that rust off of there. I'll put a little naval jelly on there and clean that up. And then I'll put a coat of lacquer over it so it protects it. So again, we want this thing to last another 45 years. So next video, I'm going to be replacing some of these resistors, and I'll record that for you and show you some techniques. Also, I'll use the Heko, the desoldering gun, which is really cool, and I got that from John. The idea to buy that, and really, really good tool. Anyway, Happy New Year, everybody. Enjoy your football.